We don't want to hear from this guy. Good morning, everyone. Jason Robertson, Vice President at CRB. CRB is a architecture, engineering, construction, and consulting firm headquartered in Kansas City, which is where I reside, but calling in from a courtyard in Dallas. Deb, thank you for having me. I've been with CRB for 19 years and farm kid from northern Iowa, just south of the Minnesota border, and I've traveled all over the country, designing and constructing both life science facilities in my career, as well as food and beverage, is where and some of the technical food that I focus on today. Really, Lisa, I'm a finance person as well. So Lisa, we could get along really well, but all about how do we develop from bench to commercial scale these technologies, and what that pathway looks like. And Lisa really highlighted it the best. I've seen that gritty street fight to ultimately exit, whether companies sell or ultimately continue, in that whole continuum. So eager to answer some questions today, and appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in from Dallas. All right, so I think we're going to start with Lisa. So you've been the CEO of BioForward since 2015. Can you tell us a little bit about BioForward, its mission, and how you got it started?
Sure. So very simply, BioForward, again, it was 501c6, so that means that we're in advocacy, right? We have a registered lobbyist. We have a registered lobbyist. BioForward itself actually started in 1988. So it's been around for a long time, and it actually was started for advocacy to kind of fight or protect that industry, right? And it was very medical device, very Madison, totally Madison oriented. When I took it over in 2015, I will be honest with you, it was pretty much going down. And because I think it just kind of lost its vision. And so very simply what I and my board of directors said, our focus is only going to be to grow the biohealth industry. That's it, very simple. So what is biohealth? You hear this term, you've heard biotechnology, life science, biosciences. So let me explain why we are saying the biohealth industry. So you have this biosciences, life sciences, like my company in the reagents business, we have what's called active pharmaceutical ingredients manufacturers, biologics manufacturers, instrumentation. That's all the biosciences, right? The University of Wisconsin-Madison, MCW, it's in the biosciences primarily, biotechnology they're focused on, right? But as you get into, and therapeutics would be in that as well, but as you get into GE Healthcare, major presence in Waukesha, Milwaukee, that's a medical device company, imaging company, right? That's healthcare. That's not biotech. GE Healthcare does not say we're a biotechnology company. Exact Sciences, Cologuard, I just did Cologuard last week. That's a diagnostics company. That's healthcare. They're diagnosing early stage cancer, right? So that's all healthcare. Epic, digital health company, not biotech. So what Wisconsin strengths, we cannot compete with Boston, San Diego, San Francisco as a biotechnology hub. We have strength, we're very strong, but New Jersey kills us, North Carolina kills us, and that, but where they don't get us is we have medical device here and we have digital health. That whole spectrum. So we took the bio part, attached the health, and that's how we came up with the biohealth industry. And that's what we've been promoting since 2016 to try and differentiate the state of Wisconsin from other cities or states that don't have the breadth that we have and the growth that we have. So other things that BioForward does then at the 501c6, that advocacy done not only is on a legislative front, it's also on a marketing front. So again, I think it's my age is that and I told you I'm going out swinging. I've gone after the state a lot. We have not promoted key industries in the state well at all. Tennessee's killing us. South Carolina's killing us. They're all going after key industries. We need to be more local. We need to market more. And so Little BioForward's doing all it can in its marketing advocacy, trying to go out, trying to market. And I think the state is finally starting to listen and trying to do more, but it's the only way. It's this whole Midwestern demeanor that I think people will know what we're doing here. No, they don't. They don't know what we're doing here. And we need to get aggressive. And this is why, so the advocacy then further is the tech hub. This is why we went after it so hard, because the state of Wisconsin needs a differentiator. We need to start having things like this that put us on the map versus other states. And then we do a few events of other things that we do, a few events we put on, but my board said, don't put on a bunch of events. We went 3 big events. We do those kinds of things. We try to bring talent into the state. Just and collaborations, anything like this, just trying to set up more and more collaborations throughout the state. So just kind of a wide variety. And I know we'll get into Tech Hub more, but hopefully that kind of explains what we do.
Absolutely. So let's get into the Tech Hub a little bit. So you've got the designation now. What does it mean for the state and how can we benefit from it?
Yep. So the basis of this is the Chips and Science Act. Hopefully you guys, I don't know how much you have, background in this, but that came out in 2022. It was a great act, has a lot of different pieces to it, and the Tech Hub was part of that. So as you stated, we applied to that this summer, and we had to tell the EDA why we thought we could be a tech hub, a national tech hub. And the basis of this is because the United States has recognized they have continued to fund the coasts, and they haven't funded innovation elsewhere in the United States. And their 2 main goals out of this were national security and competitiveness, right? So who can convince us that they can compete, they can help the United States compete in the long run and also protect national security. So we went at it as the Wisconsin Biohealth Tech Hub. But behind that is not just our companies in the biohealth industry. We came at it from our workforce. We also came at it from manufacturing. And it's that the power of Wisconsin doesn't lie just in Madison, Wisconsin or Milwaukee. It lies in this entire state, especially with the supply chain and how critical, and our workforce that you're going to be addressing more. So it's important. So again, that we start to differentiate ourselves from other states in the nation and what the power that we have to attract companies and talent here. So now phase 2 happens. We found out in October 22nd. I actually found out on the 20th. From Senator Baldwin calling me, yelling, we won. That was kind of fun. And I was in a Walmart in Fort Morgan, Colorado, which was really weird. And I'm high-fiving everyone. So that was an interesting way to find out. But so we just finished our application end of February. They gave us no time to put this together. It was a very comprehensive. So we convinced them why this summer. Now we're telling them how we're going to do it. And it couldn't be a nascent industry. So that was one of the reasons they chose us. Clean energy was one of the industries Wisconsin was looking at, but it's pretty early and it doesn't have the breadth of companies and manufacturing that we have with this industry. So we went with Biohealth for the state. And then, so we applied and now we actually have questions. We got 10 questions back from the EDA. We've responded to those today. And next Friday, we have a comprehensive 2-hour interview with them where they're going to go after us. So we came after this as projects is what they wanted to convince the EDA, if you provide the 70 million of funding to us, this will take us to the next level. Workforce was one of our projects. And to do that, then that lays the foundation to attract now companies, talent here. So it's critically important because it's a sell. So again, it's not 70 million. 70 million is nice, but it's not a game changer. That the UW-Madison brings in $1 billion a year, right? What it changes is our ability to change the perception of the state of Wisconsin. We market, and already Green Bay. I don't know if you read this. There was a company called, I wrote it down, in Volta, just 2 months ago. They cited the reason they ended up choosing Green Bay after 2 years of business development. They chose Green Bay, and one of the points was Wisconsin was a tech hub. This data center has nothing to do with our industry. Zero, absolutely zero. But they cited the tech hub because it differentiates. Now Wisconsin is like, wait, there's things happening in the state. I want to be in that state. So, yeah, long-winded answer, but I'm excited. Obviously,
no, that's great. Absolutely. I mean, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
To make it to this next stage.
Yes. Right. And we will find out, just want to, we're supposed to find out June, or hopefully early June. So it was 192 applications for phase 1 designation. 31 were chosen, so less than 20%, Wisconsin being one. They're going to take it down to 5 to 10. And that's who gets the grant money. We did get a strategy grant that actually focused an analysis on workforce and manufacturing. That was very beneficial for us for data purposes. But yeah, I'll pass that.
We'll come back to you. So now, Becky, let's go to you and the Workforce Development Board. So I know that you all played a part in getting this BioHealth tech hub designation. What workforce development strategies has the state of Wisconsin implemented to cater to the needs of this type of industry?
Sure. So Lisa was saying, you know, the grant is $70 million. Of that, $14 million is focused on workforce and workforce initiatives. Our Workforce Development Board in South Central Wisconsin, along with our sister board in Milwaukee, played a really large part in writing the grant for that workforce initiative part. So some of the strategies that we focus on as a board for our region and build strength in our region are our industry partnerships. So we have an established manufacturing alliance here in Jefferson County that meets on a regular quarterly basis. That includes manufacturers, CEOs, HR representatives, but also our partners. Madison College is here too. So Madison College is part of that strategy, that partnership, but also like community-based organizations and other educators, our K-12. So we have that manufacturing partnership, but we also have a healthcare coalition too here in Jefferson County. And we have them across the entire 6-county region that our board focuses on. So while Jefferson County has their own, we have Maiden Dane, which is in our Madison counties. We have the Manufacturing Business Alliance over in Dodge County, and we have our northern counties that also have industry partnerships. And we really focus on those because we need to understand what our employers need for their skills to meet their needs, not only to invest in their current employees, but also future employees. So that's one kind of focus that we do. We have a huge focus on apprenticeship. Apprenticeship was born in Wisconsin. So we have a strong partnership in utilizing apprenticeship, both youth, certified pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship as a focus of a training entity, a earn and learn model. And it's very successful. Wisconsin, I will say, the second largest employer that in the state for employing apprentices is UW Health. So hence healthcare, not a typical thought of an apprenticeable career pathway, but there are tons of pathways for apprenticeship, and we're building even more along the way with our partnerships at the technical college system, but also with our Bureau of Apprenticeship Standards. And that really focuses on our youth, building awareness of career pathways for our youth. Starting, it is mandatory to have an academic career plan starting in 6th grade, but youth apprenticeship starts as a junior and senior in high school, and we have a ton of companies here in Jefferson County that focus on that as building a career pathway to train their own and hopefully keep their own here in the region. So that's a huge strategy, and it's a strategy that we built in our grant application as well. So also, we have a ton of workforce grants and initiatives specifically to train individuals. So the Department of Workforce Development has what's called the Wisconsin Fast Forward program. It is a program that employees or employers or consortiums of employers can apply to on a regular basis to get some funds to create training programs or utilize current training programs through our education providers to train their individuals, upskill them. But we also focus on our the board as the convener. We are a convener of the workforce ecosystem here in our region. And we like to do regular assessments. We meet with our employers, like through the industry sector partners, but we want to know what's emerging, what the needs are, and how we can attract talent. And that's how we can attract talent in the biohealth, biotech companies and careers. So I think we offer a lot of different pathways, options, but also kind of we really base our efforts on that being that convener of workforce. So
Can I just play up something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's important that she brought up apprenticeships. I don't know if you had read, but the state of Wisconsin passed $7.5 million in matching funds for this EDA grant. It was critical that we had that kind of funding. This is unheard of, I think, anywhere in the nation. It was 96-0 in the assembly voting for. That's Republicans and Democrats coming together. And it was 31-1 in the Senate, only one senator. A big part of that was they chose the three out of our 6 projects that money would be directed to. One is workforce, and that was a critical one on apprenticeships. So that was a major reason that we received that 7.5 million was because of that apprenticeship and that project. So I just want to give credit to Becky and others that was one of the main reasons. The other one, I'm leading an entrepreneurship project, and the third one is a GE healthcare project that the 7.5 million flows to. But without that, we really had to struggle to try and get some matching funds, because obviously the EDA is requiring some match. And we met their 10% threshold because of that. But what more importantly, we were able to tell the EDA, you show me another state that came together bipartisan. New York put money, that's all Democrats. You know, that's easy when everything is one party. But when you have 2 parties that we know fight here, that they came together, even though this is concentrated in southern Wisconsin, that says a lot to the state, the importance of this tech hub, and to the importance of the work that Becky and others are doing. So thank you.
As you talk about entrepreneurship, we'll have to talk later, because I'd like to see, I know that you've got an incubator in Madison, and I want to make sure that we can help them once they move past that incubator stage. And then Becky, I also thank you for calling out Madison Area Technical College.
Gotta go Sean some more.
And they are one of the leaders in the project.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were going to have them as a panelist as well, but the person was.
Right. Yeah.
So,
They're one of the leaders.
absolutely. So now we'll look to Jason. So Jason, what key criteria are biotech health companies typically considering when they're selecting a location for their facilities?
Yeah, I'm glad I got to go behind Becky on this one, because I might just put a exclamation point behind everything she said. But to encourage this group, I travel throughout the country doing economic development and site selection with a lot of our clients. And the first thing they ask is talent. Who is available to operate and run and show up to work to run these facilities. And oftentimes, Lisa mentioned at the top about some states that are very aggressive, but those are the states that come top of mind as to have a brand or are positioned accordingly on the talent that they have. So RTP, La Jolla, California, obviously Boston, those are hubs that have been established. And my greatest encouragement to the folks of Wisconsin today is all about how do you come together in partnership to have those training programs, whether it's at the community college level, 4-year programs. And as I was preparing for this, I was reminded of a trip I was in Toledo, Ohio recently, where they were very proud of the economic development group of how they had multiple institutions, community colleges, 4-year programs, all in a panel environment, working hand in hand. And I see that sometimes a challenge for different parts of the country where everybody wants to go do their own kind of focus areas. But I think as you create a cluster, what they call an economic development, this cluster of a biohealth cluster, that's one of the greatest important things to be top of mind of some of these manufacturers, R&D, contract research organizations. And so out of the top is probably the very first is talent. And what really was kind of hand in hand. We didn't even prepare for that, Becky, but that wanted to echo exactly what you said.
Perfect. Then is there anything that we as a county or as municipalities, is there anything that we can do to best position ourselves to get the attention of the biohealth companies?
Yeah, I think you have to run in those circles of, that word I just used is top of mind is site selectors, of some of the large organizations. Obviously the grassroots, and there's probably many in the room today that are part of very smart company, small companies rather. Lisa shared her experience in the early days. And how do you create that incubation place, being in Iowa, and I guess it is hokey, but if you build it, they will come. But being part of many incubators over the years that have that space where companies, whether they're spinning out of an institution or a place where they can collaborate and really get their feet underneath them. And so I would say that's one of the very first focus areas that I've seen that has been successful. And, our company was just recently involved in the Fulton Labs project down in Chicago, where they were trying to really build their brand and get more involved in biotech. So you need that place initially where folks can come and collaborate and to build initially. So that's the start, I would say, is how do you build your brand as a a county, an economic development team, et cetera, to build upon what you're doing at the much larger level with the grant and other things. So.
Great. Well, one of our communities has a follow-up question for you. So John, if you don't mind.
Yeah, quickly to enter two things. Mount Carroll, Ravens Granite. I have been going there since I've been 6 years old.
Oh my God,
No.
and you're still alive. It's really dangerous.
Yes, it is.
It's really
Some
dangerous.
guy turned his home into a haunted house.
It's crazy.
5 days a year.
Oh,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Awesome.
It's amazing.
You can
It's
walk
still-
into a refrigerator and like go upstairs and then you're in the attic and there's a slide that goes into the basement. It's nuts.
Okay.
The actual question is, we have an innovation center in Whitewater. It was funded in part, it's owned by the CDA. It's like 35,000 square feet. We're cash flowing because we have a lot of tenants. We're trying to figure out what to do next. It's matured as a facility where we either have to kind of restart and innovate from the ground floor or return it to the market because but my question for you is, how do we take advantage of that as an asset, promote that to industries and sectors? Because there's probably, before I said anything, several people in this room did not know that the city of Whitewater owned its own space called the Innovation Center that is exactly for this, and it's in partnership with the university. Okay,
I've
thank
been
you.
there many times.
Great. So how does our city work to take advantage of what we have? We actually have the tool you're asking for. I just don't know how to leverage it.
Jason, do you want to start?
Yeah, I thought I heard that was the question to me. So first off, I think it's awareness. So checkbox number one is how do you get out and build that awareness? I think number two is then maybe what are the capabilities of that to build on the awareness? So is it wet lab? Is it what capabilities? Does it have pilot scale operations? Usually that's the next step that then from our space gets into a little bit more high dollar per square foot. I'm sure Lisa can share stories about how they evolve, but when you start to put stainless steel vessels and tanks and cove floors. And so that's probably the next step, is that journey that you can follow with some of these entrepreneurs or early stage startup companies where they're looking for that space. And candidly, across the country, there are a lot of entities that are looking for that. There's a large a gap of that pilot operation to get to those early stage trials. That could be one recommendation, and that takes a whole roadmap on the flexibility for production, because everybody has different approaches to what they're trying to manufacture, of course. But that would be one thing I'm not quite sure I'm answered your question, but ultimately, I think, how can you graduate to helping and assisting the longer duration versus an incubated company that still may not have that wherewithal or money in the bank to go to bricks and mortar for the next stage. So how can you follow them deeper into their maturation, so to speak, is what I've seen can be really successful.
Thank you.
Lisa, did you want to follow up on that?
Well, so this industry is evolving, right? I mean, it's definitely going data. Our projects are very data oriented from the technology side. So we do have an entity called Forward Biolabs that was a different type of model that we started in Madison about, let me see, it's 6 years ago, where, equipment was put in there, all the operations are paid for. So when that entrepreneur comes in, as Jason's saying, everything's already set up for them, right? The lab is set up. So it's what kills the early stage companies in the biohealth industry. Like, I had to blow through my capital to put all my equipment in to just start our companies, right? So to have that all available and operations taken care of, and then I'm just paying a membership fee just to stay there on a monthly basis, no long-term leases. It gives me flexibility, and then I can graduate, go to another space. So that works in Madison because you have entrepreneurs coming out of the UW-Madison, you've had entrepreneurs leave, people have left GE Healthcare, they've left Exact Sciences, they've started their own company, they go in that space. And it's, and this is not a criticism to Whitewater whatsoever, but I wouldn't want you putting a bunch of money into lab space if you don't think the demand, if it's not gonna be there. I'm always a big believer, what are your assets? What do you already have strength in, and then build around that. And so to me, a lot of things can come out of even the digital, well, one, you're strong in the financial services, obviously, but is there anything on the digital health space that's where you focus on, and then you aren't putting all that money into the lab space, particularly into Whitewater? Or if you do, is there a strategy? Is there something along with all these counties? Shine certainly went into Janesville, North Star did go into Beloit. Those were big wins for those communities that I give them a lot of credit, that they were able to pull those companies out of Madison and get them in their communities. So it can happen. I just want to make sure there's the demand and that there's that innovation happening that was looking for that lab space immediately in Whitewater or some places. Otherwise, go to where you're really strong. And to me, it might be more on the digital side, Whitewater.
Sure.
It could be manufacturing, and here, manufacturing. Is there things that are in the manufacturing space that we are going to have to build that supply chain more and more? Are there ways to start these younger companies or help companies to pivot to the new reality, which includes AI going forward? And that's a real problem for our manufacturers in the state right now, that they have to start doing some conversion. So that I'm just throwing out some ideas. I just don't want a lot of money, because we've even looked at that in Madison. It is, Jason's right, it is just so costly. And then if you put all that money in and no one goes in it, that's just, I mean, it's just, it would kill me in that center. It's a beautiful innovation center. So is there some other strategy that still can pull into a couple different industries, Biohealth being one, but it's different focus, and then you make that your brand, right? That this is a place, and we can bring in the financial app, there's all kinds of attachments. Supply, to me, the supply chain is a lot of services. When you look at G Healthcare's supply chain, there's a whole section on services. So, it's not just the manufacturing piece. So that's just, again, a gut feel that I have when I look at these kind of innovation centers.
Yeah, so just a couple of things that I'm thinking. First of all, I see that there's a lot of questions that are coming in, which is awesome. We are going to address them, but that'll be at the end of the meeting. But also just wanted to make sure that all of you are aware that we as an organization are also part of BioForward.
Yes.
So as you're looking to develop these strategies, please pull us in, and we'll work with BioForward in order to try and advise you. Yep. Sure. So next question is back to you, Lisa. So you're talking a lot about how costly it is. There's risk that's been associated with going through and setting up these companies, but there's also benefits. So what kind of benefits would the county and our municipalities see from attracting these types of business?
Yeah, well, this industry has a high multiplier effect. So it's a 2.5 multiplier effect, meaning every one biohealth job creates another 1.5. And you guys are economic development. I mean, you know it better than I do. I mean, it multiplies. And again, because it's a manufacturing, tends to be manufacturing based, except what I was just saying on the whole digital health side. But even then, that's pulling in a lot of different services. So it's a real key industry, I think, as far as going forward of just building any of these counties, especially in southern Wisconsin. Before all of you came in, I was talking to Deb, so I'm going to flip back to the tech hub if I could just a little bit in this.
Please do.
You guys are in the perfect spot. So we couldn't go at this tech hub just from Madison, even though it is concentrated, the industry in Madison, but you got GE Healthcare and a lot happening in Milwaukee. They really wanted to see Milwaukee uplifted too. There's a lot of disadvantaged communities, and they want to see rural too. So again, we could tell that story, right? With the manufacturing Milwaukee. So we went with the two MSAs. This county is so ideally situated to be in between that corridor, because it really does, people are looking. Okay, one, it's too expensive in Madison. It's just that companies can't afford
And
it
it's
either.
hard to do anything.
It is so hard. So where are the companies expanding now? So they've gone to Verona, and that's still Dane County, but here's Verona. Yep. Like you talk to these companies and construction companies, like in days, everything's done. They don't question, let's just go. Arrowhead Pharmaceutical built a gigantic pharmaceutical manufacturing out in Verona, Millipore Sigma, multiple sites. They will not do business in Madison anymore. They can't. It's too difficult. Middleton is a little bit better, but again, it's interesting that it has been more the eastern part, or western part, excuse me, of Dane County. Sun Prairie hasn't pulled companies either. It's very interesting to me. There should be more happening on this eastern side, and so where I see the other aspect of this tech hub being so important, if we do this right and we get this phase 2, we go international with this. And it's important to the Europeans and Asians. When I had my company, they would always say to me, so how's the government involved? I'm like, the government's not, I'm a private industry. Well, if the government's not involved, then why are you important? When you go over to international markets and you say the federal government has invested in the state of Wisconsin in this industry, this pulls companies, this pulls talent internationally, nationally, it makes a difference. So for you, how I would do it is this whole marketing around where you're located and how we've developed this HUD. So how I see it, if we do this right, we will want companies coming here, talent coming here, because they need to be a part of it. And we're going to reward them for being in Wisconsin. If you're outside of Wisconsin, you're not going to benefit as much. So I think you guys are in this perfect corridor, fast to the Madison airport, fast to the Milwaukee airport, Chicago, easy. People want to get out of the city of Madison. They can't afford housing. You know, this is nothing, and a lot of people work virtually. So if anything, I'd go after the talent of first coming here, and then also the manufacturing with just without a doubt is this is the place. And then it's the basis of like sets you apart of in outside of others, because it's still true. As much as I want the entire state to benefit, and they will, there is no doubt companies like the proximity of a supply chain, and Wisconsin should be a proximity, but even just a little bit of circumference around this area, you fit into that, and that's really important to a lot of companies. So it's an industry that I think can bring a lot of value to this county without a doubt. And I think, again, you're in a prime location to do so, and the assets that you have. And I also tell Deb, I think their website is absolutely excellent. And I think they do a great job of promoting, much better than a lot of counties or municipalities, really good job. And we were talking, they were already thinking that, like, I'd have it, we're a part of the tech hub, if you want to be, look here, look for lower costs, look for talent, we have it, we have the manufacturing. I'd be splashing that across if we get this phase 2, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I just want to, we'll take that snippet, we'll put it on our website. Put it on all of our social media.
Exactly.
So as we're talking a little bit about talent, Becky, we're going to go to you, right? So how does the state collaborate? We were talking a little bit before about Madison Technical College. How are you collaborating with education industries and industry stakeholders to ensure that Wisconsin's workforce is adequately trained and prepared to support the biotech?
Sure. So at the Workforce Development Board, like I said, we have industry sector partnerships, and both focusing in manufacturing and healthcare, but we also have other sectors. We don't want to forget anybody else. But we really work, I think Jefferson County is really in the position where you have the array of educational institutions and the array of educational opportunities. Students or adult students, so youth students and adult students, they can go to a technical college here. We have Madison College has a campus in Watertown and Ford, several campuses in Madison. You have Waukesha Area Technical College, you have Milwaukee Technical College, but then you also have your 4-year big universities with UW Milwaukee, UW Madison, MSOE. You have Whitewater. Sorry, I love Whitewater. And like that opportunity just breeds, I think, the partnership where you have the educational providers being able to train individuals of all ages, right? So we work with them to make sure that the curriculum is adequate with our employers. We need to know what skills our employers are looking for. are they being taught those skills in our educational institutions so that they meet the demand and the needs of the job occupations that our biohealth companies are needing. We also offer work-based learning opportunities, apprenticeship. Again, I'm gonna probably say apprenticeship a lot today. Apprenticeship again. We have youth apprenticeship career clusters and pathways that are specifically in manufacturing and healthcare, and a lot of them for whatever you think you want to be in biohealth, and they connect to biohealth. And we're fortunate at the board, we partner, we are the consortium for Jefferson County and Dane County. So we work with the school districts on a regular basis to make sure that students are aware of their career opportunities, so that because some of them don't know what biohealth is. So it gives us the opportunity to really do career exploration with them. And then we do a lot of resource sharing. We're one of 11 workforce development boards in the state, right? So we work with all of our partners to learn what best practices are going on. We share curriculum with all of our institutions. We share training delivery models with all of our partners. But then if an employer is looking for employees, we help with job placement. We do job fairs. We work with our companies to host those job fairs. We provide networking opportunities to learn from each other. And then we do recruitment events too. So I think we do an array of partnerships with industry, but also education. And we call that like it's our workforce ecosystem, right? So, but then we also partner with different entities. We go after different grants to focus on different training initiatives and such like that. We're going after, the Department of Labor has a grant focusing on apprenticeships, Apprenticeship Building America grant, and we're going after that, and our focus is healthcare. So I think we try to know what the in-demand sectors and occupations are, and we focus on those and make sure that we're building our network, including education and industry, to make sure that we're meeting their needs, because it is about their needs. So, perfect.
Well, Jason, I'm gonna head to you now. Can you discuss any specific trends or emerging preferences within the biotech or biohealth industry regarding facility location and design? And how can Jefferson County position itself to capitalize on these trends?
Yeah. So I think one of the first drivers is that when it comes to location in that question, Deb, is that if companies are looking to locate somewhere, probably state the obvious here, they may not want to be the first one. They want to look around and see if they have some neighbors, so to speak, a similar kind of collaboration and to further the. So obviously it's the chicken or the egg kind of conversation about, okay, as we continue to further this initiative in the county and the region, how do we go about that? But I would say that would be the first thing, is that when a company is looking at assets, the area, what's the talent pool, what's the community college training programs, what's that? That's probably the first thing. But the other, I would say, around facility location is that it's changing in biotech a little bit. From the old days of large scale operations, now we're moving into this trend of personalized medicine. We've been involved in many of these facilities where it's almost building a box inside of a box versus the old days of large scale commercial operations. So now facilities that we might think of that in the old days, aka just a few years ago, might not be a viable asset today, like large warehouse type environments. So if those are assets that are available or can be pitched, so to speak, or made available, there are some that are looking at manufacturing that has that flexibility, that this ballroom, we call it a ballroom at CRB style, is that we're building a classified space inside of a larger building, which obviously from a cost of production that Lisa did kind of agree with my point is it's a large undertaking on cost of capital to deploy. And so that makes maybe, like I said, some of these facilities more available. So those are a couple things that I'm trying to think of to answer your question, Deb.
So let me ask this, and I didn't have this scripted, so I apologize if you might see some of my ignorance here, but we have a
Good.
lot of food and beverage manufacturers coming, and you know, you're intimately familiar with one of them. There is some innovative work that's being done with some of the companies that are coming here. Aslan Bio is one. You know, we've got others that are coming and looking at the area. Are there synergies? I'm thinking about some of the tanks that we're talking about. I'm thinking, are there synergies there that we can have?
Well, I would agree, and I wanted to make sure I kind of remained Main Street kind of vanilla on my opinions on some of this, if you will. But to
You don't
maybe
have to.
plug in for the food and beverage side of things is that as all of us as consumers walk through a Whole Foods or a Sprouts or whatever your choice might be, this whole clean label, health, the intersection, I kind of call it, a biotechnology and food is alive and well, and that will continue to be a trend. And while some might pick their nose up and say, well, that's not really biotech, and I'm not accusing this group of that, but I would say open our eyes a little bit to what that intersection might look like. We call it at CRB technical food, but we've been highly involved in the alternative protein space. And I am a farm kid from Iowa, and people scratch their head when they see me on social media talk about that. But there are diets and interest globally as well as here in the US about maybe alternative approaches to where you get your protein. And that some of those cellular based products, which we've helped commercialize, are made in a bioreactor. And so we're growing cells. It's identical to a biotech looking environment. So to your point, Deb, and for the rest of the group, she didn't plan this, so she threw this one at me. But I would agree that that is in the biotech kind of environment, and I'll leave that up to Lisa to figure out how to position that accordingly. But I think that's going to continue to be a trend, and these are very high dollar per square foot facilities, very technical, require a lot of that type of training to operate those types of facilities, and all because we're looking as consumers for what we call in the food business a clean label with all those different products that might be in the ingredients that we don't necessarily like anymore. So I think that that's an opportunity as well.
Yeah, and the only thing I was gonna add, Jason, I've also seen, actually, it was a company in Whitewater that worked with my former company that I raised the equity with, that I think they were working for the dairy industry, and they had the fermentation, and they were looking for other business, and the particular company, it was called Summit Biosciences, was needing that kind of service. So they went to a food and beverage company to be able to do the work that they had the equipment. So I think it's not like building a new place, but it's having manufacturers also kind of think, hey, where are these opportunities within this industry, the biohealth industry, that will give me additional business that maybe I haven't thought of before. And it was Semba finding them. But then it was unbelievable. They had so much expertise that nobody else had. You can't find this in other states because we are so strong in the food, really this microbiology, the fermentation business. So it's one of the difficult things for us to map our manufacturing for this industry, because manufacturers are working for all these different industries. They don't just have one NAICS code and there it is, and it goes right into this industry and that's it. No, they have to manufacture for a lot of different industries. So I think there's a major play in Wisconsin for manufacturers that can serve a couple major industries. Yeah, we should be out there. Food and beverage has always been one, in like defense manufacturing, food and beverage, biohealth industry, put it out there, put it out nationally, because others like Jason, they're seeing how you can play off those industries with one another. And so, and it is food and beverage, that's all biotech, right? BioForward just couldn't serve that industry because others do it better. We can't be everything. We couldn't be agriculture, but for manufacturing, I think there's a huge win for our manufacturers in the state to be playing in both these kind of industries and to be able to market that. And for any of your manufacturing in Jefferson County to be able to market that and trying to figure out how do we get in this space and make it known that we can serve multiple industries?
Yes. I think we all knew that, right?
But the industries are already doing that, your Wilbur Ellis, your Kraft, your Nestle,
Mhm.
that's, but they're already absorbing this talent that is already being trained here in that state.
Which is why we need to build more housing so that we can bring in more people, right? To support those. Yeah, so we're working on that too. I have a lot of questions here and we're getting, I don't want to say low on time, so I'm gonna jump down here. Jason, when we're talking about Wisconsin's regulatory environment and business climate compared to other states in terms of attracting biohealth investment, do you have any suggestions on steps that we can take to improve our competitiveness?
Yeah, I'll be careful here, but I'll be pointed. I think sometimes there's a disconnect between municipality groups permitting at the state. And here's a team that's very excited today talking about how do we recruit. But my experience of permitting and regulatory and water permits and air permits, I would call Wisconsin kind of middle of the road on a grade card, if you will, of how well to navigate that. We're currently working on a very large capital project that's going to happen in your state. And I'd call it just middle of the road of helping with permitting. And it's all about the nimbleness. This is a very finicky industry when it comes to wanting to get products to market, and time is money. And so it's not a county courthouse. It's not a city hall with respect to building it, and that it's going to take years to plan and build. These companies have a business plan and have a product they're trying to commercialize. So I would just encourage the connection that county, municipalities, team members are in partnership. I wrote down collaboration that Lisa mentioned earlier. That's what it's all about, because so many times we'll see the economic development and the get work people involved. And then when it transfers over to state and city officials, that slows down. And that can kill projects, and it can also impact, because whether it's wastewater, water treatment, and obviously we all want to be stewards of our natural resources, but I will tell you that can slow down projects regardless of size, because of maybe the once through airflow that we use in laboratory environments and operations that can make some people kind of pucker. But we need that in life science facilities to obviously operate and keep clean designs. And so that's what I would say, is that make sure that you continue to reinforce the importance of how do we be responsive and open and not as restrictive. And, I've gotten permits in the city of Boulder, Colorado. So Wisconsin is way better than the city of Boulder, Colorado. But there are places in the country that are far worse, but that's something to keep top of mind, I would say.
Helpful, and I used to live in Colorado, so I can laugh.
Yes.
So this, I think, is going to be the last formal question that we have before we go to the others. But this is for you. What are some examples of successful partnerships or collaborations between biotech or biohealth companies, government agencies, local communities that have resulted in the establishment of these types of facilities and/or incubators?
Well, I mean, I don't know all the details, but I did mention Shine and North Star. Obviously, I think Janesville, Rock County did a really good job of attracting those companies and how they worked really well. And when I talked to Shine, I mean, just again, the flexibility and just Jason just said it, the movement, the quickness. They obviously, really tried to reimagine, I think, Rock County, and we're able to do that successfully. And I don't know all the details behind that. You guys would probably know it better than I would, but I was really impressed that they could pull two of those companies down to both Janesville and Beloit. Certainly Madison, I don't know that the municipality, but we have certainly, the state of Wisconsin WDC has been really great in many ways with our activities with Forward Biolabs, building out that entity. And again, the state coming through that we can expand Forward Biolabs in Milwaukee. So I think there's a lot of multiple ways that Verona has done a superb job. I mentioned that. It's the flexibility that Jason's talking about. It's what companies are looking for now. And they have to move quickly. And a lot of these municipalities cannot do it, like a Madison and a Milwaukee. So I think companies are kind of tired, they're tired of it. They can't afford it anymore. So they're looking elsewhere. And then the talent is the thing, right? It is, we all know it. If we can't prove we have the talent, then the company goes, I mean, and that's Madison too. I mean, we have, when I get companies calling me, do you have the talent? And, you know, we'll go, oh, I'll get the University of Wisconsin Madison. Like, no, do you have the talent? I need experienced talent. And so it's a struggle for Wisconsin. And that means we have to pull in families. There's just no question. And we've got to be pulling in more and more people to keep attracting these companies. But, you know, it's numerous. But I love the flexibility statement. I love the quickness statement. That's what it's all about nowadays, because companies just can't. Arrowhead Pharma, I mean, they put such a short time frame on that construction company on the city of Verona, and they just moved right with them. And that was it. That was it. They were out of Madison.
So at that point, does it make sense to have a spec building?
And these weren't spec, they were built.
Sure.
They were,
understand.
yeah.
But all these RFPs that I'm getting, they're all
Yeah.
looking for something. If
Yeah,
they
instantly.
that's the priority.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think Jason
Or-
would have to answer. Yeah,
or-
don't.
Yeah, or shovel ready. You know, the spec part kind of puts you kind of in a box a little bit, no pun intended, but I think the ability to say, hey, here's a pad and a bioscience park that has natural gas and water, and don't have those zoned to be the next Amazon facility. We ran into that in Aurora, Colorado, where the water tap fees and some things where an owner thought they got a great deal on a facility that was a large box, and then it wasn't really built because it was really going to be an Amazon type of warehouse. And so those are some things that can site selection gone bad, so to speak. But I would say having pads ready, maybe some different layouts and designs, perhaps by some developers, could be an area that could help. It's about speed. I was going to tell a quick story. I know you're up against time, but we did a project recently that was 244 sites across the US. So as you guys are trying to tell a story about just specific to your area, be mindful that site selectors, economic developers, they're looking all over the country, and that flexibility that Lisa and I are both on the same page on. If it doesn't work for you, it's no harm, no foul. We're going to go somewhere else. And that's what you're up against. And I think every city, municipality, it's not personal about it's about speed and flexibility and how fast can we do things. And that's really the tone you'll see all over the country.
Can I add one thing too with Jason, thing, but I also think it's, you need to highlight the quality of life. We were talking about this earlier, before the meeting here today, is, people are looking for quality of life, which includes, affordable cost living, education, and amenities. And amenities mean, what can they do? Is there a hiking trail or whatever, like they're looking for that. So I think that's part of the overall conversation too. So
Yeah, and we were talking too, I've been, WEDC as a talent attraction program. And I had a conversation earlier with someone from Pennsylvania, and they're looking here, if we can't afford, they're looking for a house less than 300,000. They potentially could get that here, there's no way they could do that there. Right. Deb, would you mind just going through and reading some of the questions that we have online?
Sure. Kevin Painter asks, what effect will the lack of housing have on attracting more companies?
Workforce. Yeah, so I think that, I can answer it.
Yeah.
So for me, if we don't have the housing, that just means that we've got these good quality jobs that we'll be building. They'll have to come in, they'll have to come in from other areas. We'll have to pay more. So it's going to have an impact, but. We're ready to house.
And building again off Kevin's comments here, he says, I was on the Wisconsin Rural Economics Summit last week. And I asked the question, is the lower unemployment rate in Wisconsin a hindrance to new companies coming to the state?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So now John Donahue has some comments, but he has a question here. Do you see the scale of municipal infrastructure and zoning a strength or constraint? Either way, how is municipal infrastructure factored into business development?
I'll let one of you two take that one. Jason? Are you frozen? Oh, no.
I'm frozen because I'm reading John's question. I want to try to understand it as John can, so you're just saying about the balance between smaller and larger scale, investment. Is that how I read your question?
Yes, excuse me, I just lost my visual. Oh, yes,
Okay.
Jason, you just sort of addressed that in your prior comment, whether or not infrastructure and zoning at the municipal level was a constraint or a benefit. So I think you already addressed that. Thank you.
Okay, just want to make sure, but I would absolutely say is that, if you are, building parks and preparing to make sure that those utilities are to a park, that is one of the major constraints of site selection and on our construction side. And so the more that forward looking and planning to say if this is an area that we want to, that I would say and that takes time, with utilities, et cetera. So.
Exactly. And I made a special note here in my notes that municipalities must move quickly. And your key word there was flexibility and speed. So thank you.
Yep.
I don't speak for Don, but he had one more comment here. Talk about the distinction between small business development, the entrepreneurial focus versus the large scale focus. These are approached completely differently. I ask because both scales of enterprise are being discussed simultaneously.
Yeah, it certainly is a different strategy to attract your small companies. And again, there's small companies that maybe are your service oriented. And then there's biohealth companies that need a whole different set of requirements, right? One thing I did want to bring up, I think another thing, and I don't know if you have anything like this or any individuals that like to do angel investing. Another thing that I think has been really successful in different areas is when they've been able to pull a group of angels together into a fund. It's really easy to do. I've done it, like you just set up an LLC and a bunch of people come together, and you can set up investment funds that ways, because when you're first starting these companies, especially your small biohealth companies, you need that early stage capital. You're raising 500,000 to $1 million maybe. And so I went to angels all the time. And so you either do groups, you do individuals, but anything that you can promote, if there's anybody, sometimes the corporations will have sidecars where they're willing to put money into those kinds of funds. Those are really helpful to promote within your county, that if you're here, you're an entrepreneur, you meet these, you can't fund all small, you may not be able to fund a restaurant or anything, it has to be one, because you're making an investment into that company that you want to return on that investment someday, but you recognize it may go under, but you want that return to come back into that fund. So just keep that in mind. That's another thing that I think is really successful in different municipalities or counties where people have come together, and that just attracts more entrepreneurs, that there's a potential, because it's hard to raise that first capital, really, really difficult. And we have really good incentives here with angel tax credits in the state of Wisconsin that are very beneficial to even just give you incentive to invest in young companies. So I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, it's a different strategy than now. I'm trying to go after a bigger company. Yeah, there's a whole different strategy of what this county or municipalities are going to offer me for that site selection, whatever it may be. That is true, but I mean, that's a long discussion that we have to go through all those different strategies.
Absolutely. Are there more questions?
And then Kevin was reflecting again on the Wisconsin Rural Economic Summit, where it was represented that companies relocate so seldom. And when they expand, they look to expand in their own backyard. So is spending a lot of time trying to attract business really a wise way to spend?
I mean, there is some of that's true. Again, I don't mean to do Shining North Star over and over again, but they left Madison. They can't afford it. They left Madison. Millipore Sigma left Madison. So I think, now again, they didn't go a long ways. I'll give them that. With Millipore Sigma, they went to Verona. But again, we think things are far apart sometimes, that they're not compared to the constant, in the cities that, yeah, maybe they're a mile apart, but it takes the same amount of time to go that distance as it does to come here and, you know, so, yeah, I mean, and that's something a county has to look at. I think it's a great question. It has to be a strategy and it has to, yeah, always, anything that a county municipality, I'm all for. How do you want to make these investments? What are we going after? And like I said, I always am for what's your strongest assets? Is that what we build off of? Rather than go in some direction right away and we're not known for it, build what we have. And then from that, and we've set our image out there, this is what we're known for. I think on your website, 32% is manufacturing in this county. So is that what you build off of and then go from there? And again, they like proximity and, you know, you just don't know. It's just, it's a strategy and you guys have a strategic plan. It's, but yeah, you could go a lot of different directions.
Yeah,
Well,
historically, our organization, oh, go ahead.
I might just, well, Deb, I might just add the other side of that is then think about those entrepreneurs that spent time in the Bay Area. They want to have kids and settle down a family. And how many of those entrepreneurs want to come back to Wisconsin that have roots there to settle down into, living in Kansas City, I've witnessed a couple of those companies that have come back and now want to, and so don't lose sight of that. And how do we stay in touch with them and come back, so to speak, to put their roots down, so.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things I was going to say. Historically, our organization hasn't really focused on the attraction piece. But another piece to what you're talking about is there are international companies too that have come here for education and they want to set up, you know, they want to set up a facility in the US. And so there's an opportunity there as well, right? So it's not just those people who are born here, moved away. It's those who have come here to be educated and then take that into consideration and expand it.
That's it on the chat.
Wonderful. Anyone in the room? Shauna?
I don't know if I saw some observations, questions. First question, Jason, where in Iowa are you from? That's a personal question.
I wanted
Well,
that too.
that's okay. I'm an Iowa farm kid from Belmont, Iowa. It's a town of 2,500 people. So if you know where it is, I'm impressed. So
Is that by Algona, Iowa at all?
yeah, I grew up about 25 minutes from Algona. So yeah,
My husband's
absolutely.
from there.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Jackson, Minnesota. So I
I know where.
2,500 also.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, I went to college in Northwestern over in Orange City, Iowa, private Christian college. So I know where Jackson is. So absolutely.
We're all like rural roots
Yeah,
in
we
the
are.
Midwest. I
That's
love
what it's
it.
all about. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And just talking on the rural, so at Madison College, Madison Area Technical College, I represent the 4 campuses that are not in Dane County. And I'm very proud of that distinction, that we have a lot going on outside of Dane County. Seth and we joke about that quite a bit, you know, so when you look at our college, so 70% of our revenue from our business and industry training comes from our rural centers and our rural areas. So I feel like we have a great opportunity with that. 50% of our dual credit comes from our rural high schools. When you talk about apprenticeships and youth apprenticeships, the amount of rural schools that are giving themselves numerical targets, like we want 90 youth apprentices, you know, this year, etc. It's and you know, hopefully they move into registered apprenticeship. One of the big highlights of youth apprenticeship to me is kids are figuring out what they don't want to do as juniors. I'm like, if I had that opportunity, I wouldn't have wasted a lot of money on, you know, changing paths halfway through. And so that's awesome. But also, like, as a state, 75 to 78% of technical college graduates and apprentices stay in the district that they train in. So like when you think about for potential employers coming in, and that we know that's how we retain people. We don't have brain drain when it comes to that. And the fact that Jefferson County has 2 campuses. We have Watertown, which and both of them have had major investments recently. So Watertown is Healthcare Center of Excellence. So I'm thinking, you know, the biomedical side of things. Fort Atkinson had, you know, Rebecca and I have been talking about, we did this huge fab lab, $5 million addition. I need more people in there. is part of it also. And how do we keep these rural centers vital?
Right.
Is like what gets me out of bed in the morning and keeps me fired up. I came to the technical college from the private sector, have been trying to figure out my lane because I have rural roots. And I went to the Rural Community College Alliance. So kind of looking nationally, like we're not alone. And what are the trends and and I came back and I told our president, I met my people. Like, these are my people. This is what is driving me and making me passionate. This is exciting because I think sometimes I'm like, it's just in my own mind that a lot of people are talking rural. And how do we keep our rural areas vital and providing avenues for resources.
Right.
So that's exciting. I
It
think
is
it's a great
exciting.
time to be in where we are.
I've always complimented the technical college. I mean, we have awesome, and we always hired in Overton. We always went there because it was hands-on experience. And I just had someone from one of our major companies, I think it was Catalyze. He said, I took my scientists to Madison College to see them on the work that they're doing there compared to what they're doing at the university, which is more theoretical. Certainly they get some blend,
Sure.
but it's that quick hands-on experience, and it's unbelievable equipment,
Right.
that you've invested in. And
Right.
absolutely, I really love that stat because it is true. If I'm a company and you're telling me most of these people are gonna stay and they're not going somewhere else, that's my temp, that's a huge aspect. And that's why the apprenticeship, that hands-on experience, they were the best scientists. They were the best scientists because they had hands-on experience. It was great. And they moved up in the company. It's great. I love the tech. We are so lucky to have the technical college system to do.
Right, and you think about the fact that they typically don't have debt, so they're able to buy homes.
True.
And in the
Good point.
community, and there's a lot of, yeah.
Anyone else that has questions? It looks like Jason, you've got something to say? Yeah. Anyone else have any questions for the panelists? Yeah. Carl.
Just wanted to circle back. Lisa, you mentioned Verona a few times, obviously positively. And that's basically green light to Verona, particularly relative to Madison, which sounds like, I don't mischaracterize how you put it, but kind of a red light there in terms of new growth and development, and attracting new business.
Expansion.
So again, not to mischaracterize what you said, or not, I'm gonna totally put you on the spot. You can just respectfully decline, but I think you sort of inferred that you were surprised that Sun Prairie is not at least a flashing yellow or a green. And so, and I'm asking specifically about them, because I think there's some commonality there in terms of proximity to Dane and Jefferson County and the corridor and the interstate, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts at all about why it's not happening there necessarily, and what we can maybe learn from that.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I would have to ask some of the company, why was it? I mean, it's a great question, and they've never said to me, well, here's what I did. We've talked to Sun Prairie and there was no way we were going there. I haven't had anyone go into that. I've never asked them specifically. So
I partly asked also because they're clearly, they're ahead of the curve in many, many ways in Sun Prairie in terms of growth and
exactly.
and housing, a lot of.
Exactly.
issues, right? So.
But something's missing,
What's
right? That they're
missing?
not attracting this industry. And it would help if they were to help, it would help you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no question. So, and it's even I don't see it going into the forest. Wanakee, no, we have one company that's been there for forever. It's not happening up there either.
I mean, Verona, right? So they obviously made this commitment 35 years ago to just go crazy with housing, and that had clearly paid them back tremendously.
It did.
Ever since.
It did.
And then the proximity, they're right there. I get that.
And Epic helped them, right?
But
Epic
geez,
did.
Sun Prairie is just up the road too, and Wanakee, some of these other places you
And
mentioned, and we're just up the road too. So how do
Agreed.
we? make
Agreed.
that?
Sometimes too, it's just the excitement, right? So
Yeah.
if you've got Epic who's saying, this is a really great place to be. Everyone wants to be here.
Yeah.
Those businesses hear that too.
Yeah, and it's so funny though, if you talk to the mayor, or I've heard him speak like at these groundbreakings, it's not like he's like, I love this industry and we're gonna do it. He's just like, hey, glad you could come here and, great. I don't think I have anything else to say, but wonderful.
And whatever.
But I don't know, it works, like his team, work. And so I don't have an answer. It's just that, it's just watching that it's not the north and east of Dane County. It's everything on the western side. And I do think Epic does make an impact, and somehow the city of Verona is doing something right with these companies. So
having run businesses in Wanakee and Sun Prairie.
Yeah.
I own the newspapers there.
Oh,
Whole this different dynamism there.
okay.
You have, Verona is just far enough. So it's, you go
Separated
through
a
rural
little bit.
areas, et cetera. Sun Prairie is an attachment.
It is an attachment.
It's an attachment to Madison as much as they would like to proclaim they're not.
Yeah,
And Madison has this extraterritorial powers over it and in the interim. It's a very different.
yeah,
Very different mindset. And by the way, they've grown. I mean, they're 30,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
When we bought the newspaper, it was 10,000. I mean, they've grown, but what do you do there? That's a little different. They don't have it's a lot of people commuting into Madison.
exactly.
And
That's
that's
exactly
a
right.
different culture.
It's a different, yeah, it's amazing how you got these different communities, right, that how they approach it, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah,
question.
You're looking at, over 30, 35, 40 years, because remember Fitchburg, it's going back, dating myself, but that was in the eighties, that Fitchburg and the city of Madison ate up the town of Madison.
Yeah,
And Verona has always been, because of Epic and the other different companies that have moved there, and the community was friendly. That the companies then that did work in Verona, which they weren't able to in other communities, bought the fire department, paid for the fire department.
yeah, yeah.
They paid for different parts.
Yeah.
They just did it.
Right.
There were different things that they did that were just friendly to the community.
Yeah.
The companies were very friendly, the community was friendly to the businesses, and the businesses were gave back.
Yeah, Fitchburg's a
that's
great
why-
example, yeah.
But
Yeah, Fitchburg's a great example. They've been, but Jason said it, so you get that anchor. So we talk about Epic, Anchor, Verona, Promega was the anchor in Fitchburg. Okay, that pulls other companies, and Fitchburg does it well to help those companies, right?
Right.
So, but they're limited to, it starts to get limited on land. So yeah, if you can get that anchor or an anchor industry, whether it's the manufacturing, whatever, if there's an anchor that sets you apart, that pulls in then more of those types of
and then you
companies.
got all the support companies that developed after that.
Yep, the
Yeah.
supply chain.
Yep,
I might just add, I have a unique perspective. I live in Kansas City, and Cerner obviously is Epic's competitor, but your air service is something that don't lose sight of. The air service I've heard about in Madison, and I spend 180 days on the road, so airports are important to me. But people talk about your guys' connections out of Madison, and that's also an important when clients or companies are looking at geographic locations. They want to get to their facilities quickly. And you guys, because of Epic and how they travel, have great air service compared to cities your size that would give an arm and a leg for. And so don't lose sight of some of those assets or capabilities as you're positioning your brand as well. I might encourage you.
Thank you.
yeah, well, yeah, and we talked about that. I mean, you guys are so close to all the major airports. I mean, you're like in an ideal position. The Germans, that's why they hated Novigen in Madison. They're like, we can't fly there. I'm like, how can't you fly there? What's on an international airport? So but those things have now changed. So they pulled our company to San Diego in 2009. It's the same company that now is Millipore Sigma. They've flipped. Now they've come back to Wisconsin and made major investments, including Sheboygan. So it's really interesting how that's not the big thing. I mean, as much as we all hate COVID, there's been some changes in mentality, especially with the virtual world, right? And now they don't see it always has to be flying. Where can I make the most money? And that's what it's about now, and especially this industry. And I think you guys are set up really well with your geographic location.
Well, we went way over time. We're almost an hour and a half, so thank you all. Thank you, panelists, for your time and expertise and your passion around this. It's really obvious. We have recorded the session, and so that will be available on our website by the end of the week. I know I had a couple of people who weren't able to be here today that are interested. So Thank you all for attending either virtually and in person.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now I'm gonna get in trouble with some Prairie and Madison.